10. Panama. When you stand on the banks of the Panama Canal, the view feels like science fiction. Ocean-going giants slip through jungle locks, saving weeks of sailing time. For years, leaders said, if Singapore can turn a port into a powerhouse, why not us? The government rolled out red carpets for foreign banks. Low taxes and secret accounts were the bait. Headquarters sprouted, glass towers glittered. On paper, the plan looked perfect, until April 2016, when the Panama Papers burst onto global screens. Journalists exposed hidden fortunes, political kickbacks, and criminal cash piled inside those very towers. Overnight, Panama's brand flipped from trusted shortcut to global hiding place. Money hates bad headlines. New customers stayed away, regulators tightened rules, and growth lost steam. Panama's era was simple. In finance, reputation is oxygen. Singapore won faith through strict laws and tough watchdogs. Panama chased quick gains and suffocated on scandal. 9. Kazakhstan. Step into Astana, recently renamed Nur Sultan and back again, and you see a desert turned into a dream. Gold-tinted towers twist toward an endless sky, fountains dance beside glass pyramids. Billions of petrodollars paid for this mirage, hoping investors would think, Central Asia's Singapore has arrived. Yet beneath the sparkle, oil still writes most of Kazakhstan's paychecks. Bureaucrats shuffle papers, courts lean toward the powerful, and new factories struggle to move beyond raw materials. Foreign managers complain that one phone call from upstairs can cancel a contract. Young engineers trained abroad often leave when they realize promotions depend on who signs the paper, not who solves the problem. Singapore's secret was merit, clear rules, zero tolerance for backroom deals, and long-term planning. Kazakhstan built the stage set first but never rewired the backstage. The result? Impressive selfies, uneven progress, and a reminder that concrete cannot substitute for credibility. 8. Georgia. In 2003, young protesters carrying roses chased out a corrupt government in Tbilisi. The Rose Revolution slashed red tape, fired dishonest police officers, and let entrepreneurs open a business in a single day. Headlines hailed Georgia as the Caucasus copy of Singapore. Tourists filled wine country, tech startups tinkered in basements, and container trucks rolled along the new east-west highway. But a map can be cruel. Less than an hour's drive north sits Russia, a giant neighbor that views Georgia's western tilt with suspicion. Military clashes in 2008 and simmering border tensions afterward kept risk alarms blinking. Investors who loved the reforms hated the rockets. Insurance premiums spiked, big projects stalled. Singapore rose inside a peaceful shipping lane under a strong defense umbrella. Georgia, though eager, cannot tow itself farther from Moscow. Laws can change overnight, geography does not. The lesson safe ground is as valuable as cheap paperwork. 7. Sri Lanka. Colombo's waterfront once gleamed with posters of a new futuristic district, offices floating on reclaimed land, palm-lined boulevards and private islands for the world's elite. Loans from abroad, especially China, funded ports, airports and highways. The sales pitch ran, we sit on the Indian Ocean's busiest lane, Singapore but bigger. Yet many megaprojects earned pennies. A brand new airport handled fewer daily passengers than a bus terminal. Debt piled higher than the coconut trees. When COVID-19 slashed tourism and mismanaged taxes drained cash, Sri Lanka's fuel tanks literally ran dry. In April 2022, crowds stormed the president's mansion. Inflation scorched savings. The IMF flew in with oxygen. Singapore bets only on projects with clear returns and keeps reserves for storms. Sri Lanka gambled on political showpieces without matching revenue. In the end, the country learned the hardest truth of all. Concrete cannot pay back a loan and glossy brochures do not fill gas pumps. 6. Ghana. About 2 decades ago, billboards in Accra cheered, Vision 2020 Middle-Income Ghana. The nation enjoyed stable democracy, gold, cocoa, and even new offshore oil. Startups were buzzing and musicians filled arenas. Outsiders even called it West Africa's Singapore in the making. But discipline really matters after the ribbon cutting. Government spending started to outrun taxes and repeated borrowing just weakened the CDI. Public wages ballooned, power cuts made a comeback, and some digital projects stalled because basic infrastructure like roads and reliable internet lagged behind. Transparency International surveys still list bribery at border posts and licensing offices. Now, Singapore squeezes value from every cent and punishes graft fast. Ghana's leaders, on the other hand, often compromise to please many groups at once. That softer approach keeps the peace, but, honestly, it drains the purse. The dream isn't dead. Ghana's young population and vibrant culture are still powerful assets, but until budgets become boringly balanced and contracts are immune to favors, the keys to that gateway may just stay misplaced. 5. Vietnam. Factories in Ho Chi Minh City hum day and night, soldering smartphones and sewing sneakers for the planet. Since the 1986 Doi Moi reforms, Vietnam's export machine has grown faster than bamboo in monsoon season. Officials there study Singapore's climb and, well, the comparison feels half-won. Yet the next step, from workshop to innovation lab, demands more than just cheap labor. Engineers need patent protection, transparent courts, and regulators who allow failure without punishment. Vietnam still assigns the state a heavy hand. Large banks stay government-owned, land rights can shift suddenly, and online speech faces monitoring. Foreign venture capital does flow in but cautiously. Domestic inventors sometimes register patents in Singapore just to feel safe. Singapore's strength lies in open data, clear rules, and fierce protection of intellectual property. Vietnam's cautious politics slow that leap. If the country loosens the reins while keeping social stability, it may yet finish the marathon. For now, it sprints but hasn't cleared the final hurdle. 4. Turkey. Turkey spans 2 continents and commands sea lanes that shaped empires. Istanbul's new airport can land more planes than most cities see in a week. High-speed trains cut across Anatolia, and canals and tunnels push engineering limits. The story kind of sold itself. We connect east and west better than anyone. Watch us become the next Singapore. However, investors watch more than just concrete. Over the last decade, sudden interest rate cuts, leadership shakeups at the central bank, and emergency rules on foreign currency have rattled nerves. The lira lost over 80% of its value against the dollar in less than 5 years. Courts and media faced pressure, eroding trust in contracts. Singapore rose on predictability, the same rules tomorrow as today. Turkey's frequent detours turned the bridge into a roundabout. Companies still love its young workforce and location, but they now hedge their bets, keeping just-in-case plans ready. Until policy stabilizes and institutions breathe freely, Turkey's journey to hub status will, well, remain stuck in traffic. 3. United Arab Emirates, Dubai. Fly into Dubai at night and honestly the view dazzles. The Burj Khalifa pierces clouds, artificial islands trace palm fronds across dark water, and malls host ski slopes in the desert. The city advertises open for business, zero income tax. For a moment it really seemed Dubai might leapfrog even Singapore. Yet the engine under that skyline runs on debt, real estate speculation, and migrant labor paid far below global averages. Oil revenue from the wider UAE cushions shocks, but Dubai itself has restructured its obligations more than once. Environmental costs climb, desalination plants gulp energy, and summer heat pushes air conditioning to extremes. Singapore built deep water reservoirs, invested heavily in public housing, and treated every migrant child as a future citizen. Dubai, by contrast, hosts millions who may never earn permanent residency. That creates a floating population unlikely to start R&D labs or long-term community projects. The city remains a marvel, but one sensitive to interest rate shifts and global tourism trends. Its shiny shell is real. The question is just how thick it will be when the next storm hits. 2. Myanmar. For a brief window after 2011, Yangon's tea shops buzzed with foreign accents. Sanctions eased, visas relaxed, and billboards welcomed manufacturers. Myanmar owned jade, timber, gas, and a location between 2 giants, India and China. Commentators wrote, "The last untapped Singapore." But success demands peace and reliable institutions. Ethnic conflicts smoldered, courts lacked independence, and investment laws shifted like monsoon clouds. Then on February 1, 2021, army generals seized power. Internet blackouts spread, protesters filled streets, and global firms fled. Billions in planned projects vanished overnight. New sanctions snapped back. Singapore's rise depended on efficient, corruption-free administration backed by social trust. Myanmar's coup erased a decade of slow progress, proving how fragile growth can be when rule of law is a guest, not a resident. Until real civilian oversight returns and communities reconcile, the door to prosperity will stay bolted from the inside. 1. Malaysia. In 1965, Singapore separated from Malaysia amid tense votes and public tears. At that instant, Malaysia actually looked stronger, larger land, more raw materials, and deeper reserves. Many believed the tiny island would crawl back begging. 6 decades later, the scoreboard tells another story. Malaysia rolled out grand plans, Vision 2020, the multimedia supercorridor, a brand new federal capital called Putrajaya. Yet ethnic quotas discourage some of its brightest minds who cross the strait for merit-based promotions and a stronger currency. Political coalitions shifted often, leading to stop-start policies. Corruption trials hit high office, shaking public confidence. Meanwhile, Singapore treated talent as treasure, regardless of race or origin. Transparent tenders, strict anti-graft laws, and a relentless focus on education turned scarcity into surplus. Malaysia still holds enviable assets: palm oil, electronics plants, tourist gems like Penang, but the gap remains wide. The tale proves that having more cards does not guarantee a winning hand. Strategy beats inventory every time.